The reflection staring back at me isn't human. My pupils have stretched into vertical slits, irises now an impossible shade of amber with flecks of gold scattered like star systems. The skin around my eyes has developed a subtle pattern, almost like scales, that catches the bathroom light in ways human skin never could. This isn't a hallucination. I've been watching these changes progress for days, documenting each horrifying development on my phone. The photos don't lie. My hands tremble as I lean closer to the mirror, pulling down my lower eyelid to reveal membranes I never had before. A thin, translucent film slides horizontally across my eye when I blink a certain way. The DNA test results weren't wrong. They weren't contaminated. The 18% of my genetic material labeled inconclusive and non-human is finally expressing itself, rewriting me cell by cell into something else, something that's been hiding in human form for generations. It started 6 weeks ago with an Ancestry kit, a birthday gift from my sister. Nothing but a plastic tube and the mundane ritual of spitting, sealing and shipping. I remember laughing about it, joking that my results would probably be painfully boring. "Maybe you'll discover your royalty," my sister had said, while I registered the kit online. An algorithm somewhere would analyze my genetic code, compare it to millions of others, and send back a colorful pie chart of my origins. A digitized family tree connecting me to distant cousins I'd never know. Pure entertainment. I'd always been curious about my heritage, adopted at birth. My biological parents a complete mystery that my adoptive parents could never answer. The familiar ache of not knowing had followed me since childhood. Who hadn't wondered where they came from? So I spit in the tube, sealed away my cells, and sent them off without a second thought. The email arrived after midnight, a clinical notification that my results were ready. Clicking through bleary-eyed, I expected the usual breakdown: European ancestry, maybe something unexpected, like a small percentage of Asian or African DNA. Instead, the screen displayed an error message. Unusual sequence detected. Results under review. 3 days later, a revised report appeared. The pie chart looked normal enough. Mainly Northwestern European, with traces of Mediterranean, except for a glaring 18% labeled inconclusive. I called customer service immediately. "This sometimes happens with contaminated samples," the representative explained, her voice professionally neutral. "We can send another kit free of charge." But something in her hesitation caught my attention. I asked if she'd seen this error before. "Not this specific pattern," she admitted. "Your sample was tested 3 times. The results were consistent in their inconsistency." I couldn't let it go. I requested my raw data file and spent nights parsing through endless sequences of letters, ATCG patterns that supposedly define me. After a week of research, I found a geneticist willing to look at my results unofficially. Dr. Reeves's office smelled of coffee and old books, her computer humming as she scrolled through my genetic code. "These markers are unlike anything in current databases," she said, pointing to highlighted sections. "If I didn't know better, I'd say these sequences were engineered." Her fingers tapped against her desk, a nervous rhythm, or not human. She laughed uncomfortably, quickly clarifying that she meant the patterns resembled nothing in human genetic literature. "I'd need a tissue sample to verify," she added. That night, the first nightmare came. Running through dense forest, my body moving with impossible speed and grace, hunting something I couldn't see but could smell with preternatural clarity. The library in my hometown has an extensive local history section. I hadn't planned to go there, but the nightmare had shaken something loose in my memory. A story my adoptive grandmother told me once about the forest folk who would steal children and leave their own behind. Changeling myths existed everywhere, but something about our local version nagged at me. The librarian directed me to a dusty volume documenting regional folklore. The black and white photograph stopped my breath, a crude drawing from 1879 of forest folk with slitted eyes and faint scale-like patterns on their skin. The text described them as cunning mimics of human form, revealed by their eyes in certain light, known to replace human infants with their own kind for purposes unknown. My hands trembled, turning pages describing changeling signs, sensitivity to iron, unusual eye reflections, accelerated healing. Every symptom I'd begun experiencing in the past week. I submitted samples to 3 different testing companies, paid rush fees I couldn't afford. Each time, my results came back with variations of the same anomaly. Unidentifiable genetic markers labeled with different terms: non-reference, structural variant, novel sequence. One company called me directly, a researcher whose voice wavered between scientific curiosity and concern. "We've cross-referenced your sample with every known database," she explained. "The closest partial matches are from this same geographical region, all within a 50-mile radius." I asked how many matches. 17, she replied, all adopted. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. I wasn't alone. The researcher cleared her throat. "There's something else. The anomalous sequences appear to be activating. Comparing your original sample to this one, we're seeing evidence of genetic expression that wasn't present before. Whatever these genes do, they're turning on." My body is changing. It started with enhanced night vision, the ability to see perfectly in near darkness, colors shifting to sharpened silver blues and greens. Then came the sensitivity to smells, layers of information in each breath that human language has no words for. Foods taste different, meat suddenly repulsive, while I crave raw mushrooms and bitter herbs I'd never enjoyed before. The most disturbing changes are physical. My canine teeth have developed almost imperceptible serrations. A paper cut on my finger healed completely overnight. My eyes, God, my eyes. They reflect light like an animal's when caught at the right angle. I've started wearing sunglasses everywhere. Yesterday, I discovered fine, nearly invisible hairs along my forearms that raise and lower with my emotional state. I've begun documenting everything, measuring subtle changes in my facial structure that nobody else would notice yet. Did you know? I confront my adoptive mother in her kitchen, the familiar smell of her bread baking now overlaid with her fierce sweat and the chemical tang of her hair dye. Her hands freeze mid-knead. "Know what, honey?" But her heart rate has elevated. I can hear it somehow. Another new ability, about where I really came from, what I am. Her eyes won't meet mine. "You're my daughter. That's all that matters." I remove my sunglasses, forcing her to look at what's happening to me. Her sharp intake of breath confirms she sees it too. "Where did you find me?" "The truth, Mom." She sinks into a chair, flour dusting her arms like snow. "The agency handled everything, but there were unusual requirements. No iron jewelry near the crib. No christening. Specific instructions about diet. Her voice drops to a whisper, and they told us never to let you wander in the woods alone. Grandma Rose knows more. I find her in the sunroom, her arthritis-gnarled hands arranging dried flowers. We suspected, she admits without preamble, as if she's been waiting decades for this conversation. The family who gave you up, they weren't like others. They paid the agency to find you a good home, with specific conditions. She shows me a letter, yellowed with age, written in elegant script with bizarre stipulations. Dietary recommendations, warnings about iron sensitivity, instructions to move away if my eyes began to change. There are stories in these woods older than any town, Grandma whispers. People disappeared. Sometimes pregnant women would vanish for months, return with no memory but a baby in their arms. She touches my face with trembling fingers. Your mother was from here. She came back with you. She had the same eyes you're getting now. The changes are accelerating. I wake to find strands of my hair have turned an iridescent blue-black, shimmering with colors that shouldn't exist when caught in certain light. My night vision has sharpened to the point where I no longer need lights in my apartment after sunset. Food continues tasting wrong. Everything processed registers as chemical and repulsive, while I crave things found in forests, certain mushrooms, bitter roots, raw tree nuts. Most terrifying are the memories that aren't mine. Flashes of running through nighttime woods, of ceremonies beneath massive ancient trees, of drinking from cupped leaves filled with moonlight. I find myself humming songs I've never learned in a language I shouldn't know. My reflection grows more frightening daily, human enough to pass cursory inspection, but increasingly something else beneath that thin veneer. I've started searching for the 17 others like me. Professor Harlan has studied local folklore for 40 years. His office walls are covered with maps marking disappearances, alleged sightings, and incidents dating back to the first European settlements. The original inhabitants of this region had extensive legends about them, he explains, spreading out a hand-drawn map. They called them the in-between people, neither fully of this world nor entirely of another. He shows me photographs of cave paintings depicting figures with vertical slit eyes. Every 7 generations they were said to retrieve their children raised among humans. Something cold settles in my stomach. What happens to those children? I ask. He hesitates. They complete the transformation and return to their people. I show him my eyes, my changing hair. He doesn't recoil. Instead, he nods with scholarly satisfaction and extraordinary compassion. It's begun then. The woods will be calling you soon. The reflection staring back at me isn't human. My pupils have stretched into vertical slits. Irises now an impossible shade of amber with flecks of gold scattered like star systems. The skin around my eyes has developed a subtle pattern, almost like scales, that catches the bathroom light in ways human skin never could. This isn't a hallucination. I've been watching these changes progress for days, documenting each horrifying development on my phone. The photos don't lie. My hands tremble as I lean closer to the mirror, pulling down my lower eyelid to reveal membranes I never had before. A thin, translucent film slides horizontally across my eye when I blink a certain way. The DNA test results weren't wrong. They weren't contaminated. The 18% of my genetic material labeled inconclusive and non-human is finally expressing itself, rewriting me cell by cell into something else, something that's been hiding in human form for generations. I've found 3 others like me. We connected through a private forum where people discuss unusual DNA test results. They're experiencing the same transformation, their bodies changing according to the same impossible blueprint. Together, we've pieced together fragments of our shared heritage, not monsters, but something older than human civilization. A people who retreated into deep forests as humans multiplied. They leave their children among humans for 7 generations, then call them home when the bloodline reasserts itself. Tonight, beneath the full moon, the 4 of us will meet at the ancient oak, where the forest grows densest. My adoptive family cries when I tell them goodbye. They've always known this day might come. I feel the pull of the trees like a physical force now, drawing me towards something both terrifying and exhilarating. I don't know if I'll ever return to the human world. How many of us are out there checking our Ancestry results and discovering we were never who we thought we were? Don't face the horrors alone. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video. And if you want your nightmare seen, email it to stories@hallowcroft.com.